CEO of the Committee of 70, Philadelphia's long-standing civic group that educates and engages citizens in the electoral process and advocates for better government in Philadelphia and in Pennsylvania. We have a primary election coming up May 21st. In our view, running for office is a job interview. The candidates have a chance to share their ideas and plans and accomplishments with voters, who are essentially the hiring committee. And at the end of that comes election day, where you get to make your picks. So in that spirit, we are carrying out a series of interviews with city council candidates, which is a challenge because all told there's about 50 of them. But we offered as many as we could accommodate the chance to join us for 15-minute interviews to again, sort of model a job interview. So I am now with Matt Wolfe, who's running for city council at large as a Republican. Matt and I have known each other a few years. He's a long-standing civic leader and award leader, actually, in West Philadelphia. He's an attorney. Has also worked in the Attorney General's office in Pennsylvania and ran for council in 2015. So this is not your first rodeo, correct, as they say. As I said, we're going to talk with Matt for about 15 minutes. And let me just start out with the most basic, the most fundamental question that candidates get asked. Why are you running?
Well, I'm at a point in my career where I think I can devote some time to giving back. I view this as public service. You know, I'm looking at Philadelphia, a city I love, a city I'd like to see do better. You know, Philadelphia's best days are ahead of it. We have a lot of new people moving into the city. A lot of our economic indicators are pointing up. In fact, the Center City District just released its annual State of Center City report. I haven't read it, but from reading the headlines, I have read prior reports. I know it's in it, and it says just that. Philadelphia is on the move. Philadelphia is growing economically, but it is still, when compared to what Paul Levy likes to refer to as our peer cities, lagging behind. You know, you scratch your head and wonder why. Same way, you know, Philadelphia is many times described as the poorest big city in America, and by many measures it is. And you have to question, why is that? We have some of the finest universities and hospitals in the world here in Philadelphia. We have a public transportation infrastructure you can never afford to replicate today. We're midway between New York and Washington, with Amtrak to whisk us there, with freight train service coming in, with a port, with a serious international airport. We're midway between the Jersey Shore and the Poconos, for God's sake. The only reason that we are the poorest big city in America is because of decades of bad decisions made at City Hall. We have an irrational tax structure. You know, we tax jobs and businesses. And when you tax things, you get less of them. We have, you know, higher tax rates that are necessary. We have onerous business regulations. You know, and then we scratch our head and say, gee, where did all the jobs go? Well, you know, they went to across City Line Avenue. I had my formal announcement, which is just a chance to get some media attention. But I had it on Haverford Avenue in West Philadelphia in front of the ShopRite that's now out of business, posing under a huge sign that says store closing March 19th. It's now closed due to the Philadelphia beverage tax. But you know, that is just kind of emblematic of the sort of things that City Council does. It targets a specific business, you know, forces, you know, we lost jobs there. There's, you know, Acme has talked about how much they've lost because of the soda tax. The soda tax is just a component. You know, drive down Baltimore Pike, and one of the first businesses you see has a big sign out that talks about its low cigarette prices, because we have a cigarette tax. Same thing in Melbourne, has a dying commercial strip on Market Street, but there are 3 tobacco stores that didn't exist prior to our soda tax. I'm sorry, the cigarette tax. We have a liquor by the drink tax. We you know, have a 2% sales tax on top of the regular sales tax. And you know, that means when I have not purchased a soda other than to drink immediately since the soda tax went in. And you know, we drink, you know, have a lot of soda, do a lot of things. we, like many other people, go out of the city to get our soda, and while we're there, we save the 2% sales tax too, and do a lot of more of our shopping there. Recently, City Council passed a law saying, an ordinance saying that retailers cannot have to take cash. And then they went to the poor people and they said, look what we did for you. You won't be discriminated against anymore. They didn't do anything for them. What they did was tell Amazon, when Amazon came in and said, look, we have a business plan. It entails, we're going to be cashless. We're not changing our business plan because some municipality decides to do something stupid. Philadelphia's city council did something stupid. Amazon's not coming to Philadelphia now and taking their 100 jobs with them. And they did absolutely nothing for people because if there's a market for businesses that take cash, you and I might open up a store across the street from Amazon with a big sign out front. We take cash, much like the big sign on Baltimore Pike that says lowest cigarette prices. Even if it's a good idea, city council should not be passing ordinances that make it tougher to do business in Philadelphia. If you want to change something, go to Harrisburg, go to Washington, and make the change there.
Yeah. Let me just interject. This is, I'm sure you can see this coming. This is a question reserved for Republican candidates, and I'm not going to talk about the president. But the reality is there are now 3 seats on City Council of 17 held by Republicans. There have to be 2, could be 3.
There don't have to be 2.
Well,
those are minority seats. Yeah,
that's true.
And let's put it. I am very cognizant of that, and intend to fight to preserve those seats for Republicans.
Yep. Absolutely, they have to be of a minority party, not necessarily Republicans. Point is,
the likelihood is they will be
Republican and assume Matt Wolfe gets elected. How do you, with a set of ideas that will acknowledge a sort of counter to the prevailing winds in Philadelphia right now, how do you build support on council to move a bill that the mayor's going to sign that reverses some of the things that you've
well, the unfortunate truth of the matter is, city council has a lot of unanimous votes. I'm not going to be one of them. But, part of legislation is compromise. And, is it likely that I'm going to vote for tax increases? No. Am I going to take a no tax pledge like a lot of politicians, particularly Republican politicians, have? No. I mean, if I was presented with a proposal to say, well, if you vote for this tax bill that's going to increase taxes $10 million, but if to get your vote, we're willing to cut $100 million in spending that, that I don't think are necessary, would I take that deal? Maybe. I have a conversation with Alan Dom every once in a while, and I was talking to him about a bill in council, and it had passed committee, and we were talking about it, and he said, yeah, I tried to change it. And I said, yeah, I read your change. I didn't like that either. And he said, I didn't like it either, but I was trying to make a bad bill less bad. Well, I get that. Would I vote for a bill that I think is bad if I could get an amendment to make it less bad? If that's what they needed to get my vote? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's sort of a 2-part question. There's a little backward looking. In your lifetime, I know you've been active in Republican politics. Who's been the most effective Republican member of City Council in your lifetime? Segue into this question about you and your experience. What would you like folks to know about what you have done in your career in Philadelphia that's made a positive difference to the people or a community of Philadelphia?
Well, that answer is kind of simple. I think it was Thatcher Longstreth. Thatcher Longstreth was liked by everybody and understood the process and got some things done. A guy I liked a lot and had a lot of respect for.
Plus, he had great socks.
Yes, in fact, I went out and bought a pair of Argyle socks for his memorial service, and I learned how to tie a bow tie for his memorial service.
Great socks and a great tie. Okay, to the question about Matt Wolfe. What would you like folks to know about the impact that you've made so far?
Well, I think I've made a positive impact in government. As you noted, I was a deputy attorney general under Leroy Zimmerman. When Tom Ridge was governor, I ran the legal department for the Department of Labor and Industry. We really made some serious changes in the Ridge administration. I was certainly part of that. And everything that Tom Ridge was trying to do was bring jobs to Pennsylvania. And the Department of Labor and Industry was a key focus of his attentions. Ron Castillo appointed me a special assistant district attorney. That was to close nuisance bars in my neighborhood. And we closed a few of them. And these were some nasty places. In fact, after we closed one of them, I got a rock thrown through my bedroom window within a couple of days. And when we closed the Purple, that was the Times Cafe. And when we closed the Purple Fox, somebody smashed the window of my law office, which was on Baltimore Avenue. But that was an outgrowth of my my overall community work. You know, I served on the board of the Spruce Hill Community Association for a long time. I was their vice president for a few years. You know, I've been on the board of the Friends of Clark Park. I was on the board and later legal counsel to the West Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce. There aren't too many community organizations in University City, West Philadelphia that I haven't had some involvement with. But what I frankly like to say is, you know, if there's something that qualifies me to serve on city council, is that for most of my career, I've been an attorney in private practice who has to turn a profit. You know, too many of our elected officials, not all of them, but too many of them have never had a job in the private sector in their lives. And it shows by the way they vote. You know, Mayor Kenny is criticizing Jeff Brown, telling him if he can't make money, you know, without selling soda, he doesn't know how to run a grocery store. Really? You know, Mayor Kenny is now a business management consultant. And to the best of my knowledge, Kenny is, you know, I remember him working in a variety of government-related jobs. A lot of our people come up through the nonprofit. There's nothing wrong with that, but you need some people who understand how business operates.
All right, let me segue to sort of the last bucket of questions and thoughts, and that's around, I guess you could call it political reform. Seems to be a lot of frustration out there that City Hall doesn't work very well. City Hall is broken, which I interpret as not just what goes on in that building, but it's the process by which people you know, enter into that building. So here we talk, these are very Committee of 70 kinds of things around.
And just a little aside.
Yep.
I worked for the Committee of 70 for a summer. I was probably the only ward leader ever on their payroll.
Okay.
But the summer between my first and second year of law school, I was a Republican committeeman, and they hired me as a, you know, for a summer position where I did research into various things. And were kind of unnerved, though, when I was appointed ward leader prior to taking the job. They thought it was an advantage to have a committeeman because I might know some things other people wouldn't. But ward leaders, yeah, they weren't as high on that. But
all right, we'll let that sit. But you know, we put out something just a couple of days ago. We're calling Philadelphia Resolution 1 that calls for more transparency in council, curbing councilmanic prerogative, opening up elections in various ways. So just where are you on that bucket of issues?
Well,
what other ideas do you think we need to bring to the table?
Well, the issue that sprung out for me on that is council prerogative. You know, it is a huge issue here in Philadelphia, but you know, I don't make it one of the points that I really drive when I'm on the stump, because I sit in rooms with people and I talk about council prerogative, and I have people who are very intelligent people who say, and what exactly is that? You know, you can personalize it. You can talk about the 2 lots in Grays Ferry that were sold by the city at clearly way below market value prices that Kenyatta Johnson is now, according to news reports, under federal investigation for.
Yeah. Well, let's acknowledge it's hard to say and it's hard to spell, and not everybody understands what it is. But it's out there. So I guess my question is, what do you think we have to do about it?
End it.
How do you do that?
Well, you know, it is not in any council member's job description in the city charter to have any involvement in that. You know, for the city to tell people, and they've actually told people this, well, you know, you need to get clearance from your district councilman before we can sell you that. That, in my mind, seems to be a clear violation of civil rights. That, because all that council prerogative is on something like this is a city councilman getting political chits to raise money and to get political support when they run for re-election. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with the legislative process. And for this, and Ori Feibush brought the suit against Kenyatta Johnson and won, which was a sliver of that. But the bottom line is, if the city of Philadelphia tells somebody they have to get clearance from their district council member for that, even though they don't.
It's not embedded in law.
Yeah. Well, all they're doing is using the government, the power of the government, to help a politician get reelected. That's all it is. And it should be the subject of civil suits every time it happens. The city owns what, 8,500 vacant properties? How many should they own? How many do you think they should own?
As close to zero as possible?
Yeah, anything that they're not going to actually use in like a 2 or 3 year plan, they should just be sold. And a few years ago, the Inquirer wrote a fluff piece. It was talking about how the city had an auction of properties in Councilman Squilla's district. And they talked about how it made like $1 million more, I'm not sure on the numbers, than they expected. They thought that this was great, and they thanked Councilman Squilla for allowing them to do this. And Squilla was bragging that he had hand-selected the properties, but was taking some of them off even the day before, so that because constituents had come and said, well, I want to buy the property, but I don't have the money right now. And I read that and I thought, how many ways is this wrong? And the Inquirer, to their credit, published an op-ed that I wrote, questioning this whole process. I mean, Squilla should have no involvement in selecting properties.
Right.
Squilla should had no involvement in allowing the city to sell properties. And most egregious of all, he is having properties removed so the city doesn't get the money that it desperately needs, so that he gets a favor from a constituent.
I have a feeling you clearly know a lot on this issue and bring a lot of passion to it, but we got to wrap this up for the time being.
Can I talk about one other thing? No, because you had talked about other things to reform government.
Sure,
it's not
if you can do it crisply and quickly.
Yeah, I can.
Yep.
One of the things that I believe strongly is that the party committeemen, the Republican and Democratic committee people in the city, should be the ones who elect the citywide leadership and make endorsements, not the ward leaders. That is done in almost,
as you pointed out before we talked, is the way this happens in many other counties.
Almost every
most
county.
every other county in Pennsylvania.
Yes. And I feel strongly that that's the direction that we should go. I think that would go a long way to incentivizing people to want to serve in those positions.
I think we're with you on that.
Then put it in your, when you said that was a work in progress.
It's alluded to.
Okay.
It's, unfortunately, it's one of those things that's a little technical for most people who are not buried in the ward system already.
And I'm buried in the ward system.
All right. Matt, thanks for being with us.
Happy to be here.
And this wraps up our segment with Matt Wolfe. Thanks to him for being here. Thanks to the Thomas Skelton Harrison Foundation for enabling this conversation. If you want to dive into council races even more, you can go to our website, 70.org, the word SEVENTY.org, to look at our voter guide, or you can download our We Vote app, which puts in the palm of your hand pretty much everything you need to know to be a super voter on May 21st. And I close with that. Primary election, May 21st. Make a plan. Encourage your friends, neighbors, and others to make a plan, and we'll see you at the polls.